Well, let's start with, because people have talked about this, but I haven't gotten a chance to react to the clips. Really, I talked about it on KMS earlier in the week, but I kind of wanted to react to Jon Stewart's defense of Stephen Colbert. I was way off on this. Another thing I was wrong about this week was I said, "Oh, Jon Stewart, he's always so level-headed." I don't think I took into account that this is like his guy. That Colbert is his boy who, Jon Stewart gave him a career, and these guys love each other, it seems. So I didn't take that enough into account when I thought of how Jon Stewart would react to this. But he really went over the top in defending Colbert. There were some nods that make me believe he does understand why this happened. But to me, I think Stephen Colbert was so deserving of a firing because everyone in that industry is. There's not someone where I'm like, oh, they're doing it way better than, it's a dead art form. The idea of doing it the way Johnny Carson did it is gone. And even someone who loved Carson so much, like Conan didn't want to destroy the Tonight Show because it would desecrate what Johnny Carson built. But even Conan on his own show was like, all right, we got to change this. We got to take the desk away. Take the suits off. We'll do something. We'll make it more of a podcast, whatever. Conan at the end realized that format was dying. And it's amazing to watch Colbert, Kimmel, Fallon, Seth Meyers. All these guys have not changed a fucking thing. And there's this idea now that CBS did it because of this lawsuit with Trump that I know dick about. I don't know a goddamn thing about it. So I can't be too insightful on the ins and outs of that lawsuit. But what I will say is, in CBS's defense, they canceled James Corden how long ago? How long ago is that they got rid of Corden? They were getting ready for the end of late night for a while now. And if you want to say Colbert was canceled for political reasons, James Corden, his signature bit was literally not speaking. He would move his mouth to hit songs with celebrities. He couldn't be a more vanilla guy. And CBS was still like, we just can't, it's not making any fucking money now. It's not worth it to do this anymore. So this idea that Stephen Colbert was wronged in some way is silly. I think the Tonight Show is going to stick around for a little while longer because it's just a bigger brand. So NBC is probably able to make more money off of it. But CBS is not intentionally losing money in late night to defend Donald Trump. This show was a disaster. Here's how disastrous it was. It was number one. Colbert, you could say, was doing it the best of anyone, and they were hemorrhaging money. So I don't even get what the argument is, but Jon Stewart will try to make it in Stephen's defense here.
He's his friend. Jon Stewart's a good friend, but it's also his legacy. This is Stephen Colbert and Steve Carell are pieces of Jon Stewart's legacy. And this is like Belichick's coaching tree. If someone in the coaching tree has a losing season, Belichick jumps to the mic and he's like, that's a great coach. They're going to find a new job. It's a defense of your own honor because you look good.
I respect the loyalty, but I was just disappointed because I've and maybe too much. I've lifted Jon Stewart up as a guy who's pretty level-headed, and I didn't think this was the right take on this one.
But since we're on the topic of corporate capitulation to the whims of a pussy-grabbing enigma, last week, as you may have heard, CBS, which happens to have the same parent company as the network.
People get mad when I stop it too quickly. I've got to in this case.
Oh, Jon Stewart, yes.
The idea, already, Jon Stewart, it works for the same company, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Viacom is Comedy Central is still under the same umbrella as CBS. Jon Stewart just insulted Donald Trump 30 seconds out. He's not going to get fired, right? They went out of their way to bring him back because he's the best option they have by far on Monday nights for that show. So, this idea that Trump rules this network now, you just disproved that 3 seconds into the fucking clip.
This program currently airs on unceremoniously canceled The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. And, yes, in this case, I'll allow it. Now, obviously, I am certainly not the most objective to comment on this matter. Many of you may or may not know, Stephen and I worked together on this very program. Together from 1999 through 2005.
Another thing people hate, I think, about this format is that right there. Jon Stewart says something. They're not even listening. I bet most of the people in that audience probably didn't watch the Colbert Report. But like they're trained seals. Like Jon Stewart says something with a certain inflection, and they all go, "Woo!" It's the same thing we talked about with The View last week. They're just trained monkeys that know when to clap and when to woo. And
don't they have signs in the audience
There's a
that light
sign,
up
Mike.
and
It
say
says
applause?
It says
Right.
applesauce.
Yes. So I think that's what people get sick of. And it's like I love sitcoms, but sitcoms were bastardized by the laugh track. It wasn't genuine anymore. So people aren't as dumb as we want them to be, particularly in entertainment. Where like people hear that shit, the middle of America or whatever it is that rebels against that, they hate it. There's something they hate about that. Being told what they think is funny or what they think is interesting or what they think is applause worthy. And that idea that you've trained these people, like with laugh track sitcoms, it just became like, it's why Big Bang Theory and Two and a Half Men and shows like that had such a bad rap. A lot of the writing was corny and all that, but it was also that you knew when you watched it that was fake laughter, that they were just injecting in there to be like, hey, this is when you're supposed to laugh, guys. So it felt forced to everyone. And that's why that art form that I love died. And it's the same with late night or daytime television or any of that, where it just seems fake and forced to people. And they're not buying it anymore because there's so much else out there. You don't have to deal with that when you listen to Theo Vaughn or Joe Rogan or Tim Dillon or whoever. Say what you want about their political views, but there are other things that they're not looking at. It's frustrating that no one can get past that. Like, take the political shit aside and say, hey, maybe it did have something to do with Trump. Maybe Colbert did get fired because of this lawsuit and the shit that he said about Trump. Maybe that's part of it. But how about look at the parts you can control? You can't control what Donald Trump thinks. But how about some of the aspects that you can control that you haven't changed in 60 fucking years? It's crazy.
The irony here is we're talking about a guy who did change it. If the Colbert Report would have just existed and then he would have not taken that Late Show and he just would have disappeared, we would have looked at the Colbert Report as an enigma.
Or how about this? For the first time in late night, do that Stephen Colbert character. Now he doesn't have to be Bill O'Reilly, but he could be Letterman. Like, he could be a parody of Letterman, where it's this pompous asshole shitting on the guests.
Pretend you're entertaining.
Yes, Stephen. Pretend you were entertaining, and maybe the show would have worked. Like if he was that
he's
Colbert,
gonna get a podcast.
Yeah, he'll do a podcast or something probably.
Political.
I got news for you, Electra. As you guys and me have proven, you don't need to get a podcast. No one needs to offer it to you. You can just do it. So I think Colbert will be fine from that.
Well,
regard.
yeah, that's what I meant.
There's no board approving.
Yeah,
podcast.
but like that Colbert character, it doesn't have to be a Republican anymore. I get if you're on CBS, maybe you don't want to divide the nation in half. Oh wait, Stephen did that for the last decade, but. Like it could have been the entertainment version, Jiminy Glick. Colbert could have changed his focus from politics to entertainment and done something interesting.
He had a suck it board, Mike. He pulled out a board of people he hated, and then it was fucking
Suck
hilarious.
It Sundays? Was that it?
Yeah.
And he got fired and canceled.
He did.
Well, no, this was on the Colbert Report when it was funny.
Oh, okay.
Haven't changed a bit. And then Stephen began our sister program, The Colbert Report, also on Comedy Central. A show which, in my mind, if I may, a show which, in my mind, remains to this day one of the most astounding accomplishments in satirical television, rendering a fictional character in real time 4 nights a week. For 10 years, so seamlessly, many viewers believed him to be the boorish, high-status idiot he was portraying.
I agree with that. It's one of the great late night achievements, and that has literally zero factor in the CBS decision, other than it's why he was hired. They were like, oh, this is a brilliant guy who just achieved something that seemed impossible. If you just laid that out to someone, hey, this guy's going to play a character in late night and on an opinion show, it doesn't make any sense on the surface. So, but that has the only impact that has on the CBS decision is that's why he was hired. That's the character that he was hired, and this show was nothing like that. So
they immediately doled that. They immediately doled that Sharpet thing. They're like, "Oh, we love you. Change everything."
Yeah.
Times, my friends. We were two pretty good-sized fish in a reasonably small, basic cable pond. Both of our shows reached an inflection point in 2015. Stephen chose to challenge himself by seeing if he could succeed the legendary David Letterman in, quite frankly, a much bigger pond than the one he and I had been swimming in. And I quit. I quit. Stephen challenged himself. I passed away.
And this is where you can tell it's like they're just like Jon Stewart's trying to compliment his buddy. You know, this has like nothing to do with anything. It's all fluff. Like he's just trying to. He's a good friend here. The take is stupid, but he's a good friend.
Yeah, I would hope you would do that for us, Mike.
Yeah, I think he would. I think he would.
And challenged his abilities in the biggest field you could, and I literally went to a farm upstate. It's true. He did it. I didn't. And
again, has nothing to do with CBS's decision. The idea that Colbert worked harder than Jon Stewart over the last 10 years has zero to do with why he was fired. It's just getting people to clap at this. It has nothing to do with the argument.
Yeah, and then Jon Stewart left and made people pine away for him, and then came back and signed $1 billion contract. So it kind of worked out for him.
Yeah, Jon Stewart, you should be celebrating that you didn't do dancing vaccine injections or whatever the fuck Colbert's been doing. Skibbity Biden.
I may. Watching Stephen exceed all expectations in the role and become the #1 late night show on network television has been an undeniable great pleasure for me as a viewer and as his friend. And now,
it's exhausting, the clapping.
Yes.
Stephen has been canceled for purely financial reasons. And by the way, not just Stephen's show, CBS has canceled the entirety of the Late Show franchise. Gone.
Right, so doesn't that tell you the fact that they didn't, like, maybe this would have been a political move if they brought in Ben Shapiro to do late night.
Yeah. Tim Dillon or something. Yeah.
Right, like, doesn't that tell you it's a move bigger than Colbert? This idea that they're getting rid of a franchise that David Letterman built. Because, like I said, they got rid of the show after Colbert, replaced it with a game show, and now they're getting rid of that, I think. Because Taylor Tomlinson quit, but they could easily just get another host for that after midnight show. But I don't even think they're doing that. I think it's just going to be reruns of fucking Seinfeld or something. Like,
Yeah,
well, they can't, whatever show. Say How I Met Your Mother.
And then in a year, we'll all forget, and they'll announce some new person, and we'll be like, "Yay, a new show!" And then forget about it.
I don't know that they will. I think they're just done.
Oh, they will. No, a year from now, let's make a bet. A year from now,
maybe
Theo Vaughn.
Maybe it will be. Honestly, my thought has always been Nate Bargatze.
Oh God, yes. But that number would have to be so high because he's touring stadiums. Yeah.
They would need to pay him $90 million a year to beat what he's making.
At
least, yeah. The only thing with that is, like, what I think they would do, like, say they hired Nate or whoever, I think it'll be a podcast.
You know,
it'll be Nate in an empty room with more like almost like Charlie Rose almost, but it's Nate Bargatze. What they should do, have the microphones set up like Rogan and the headphones and everything, like make it a podcast for an hour minus commercials.
You know, another name I hear a lot out here for taking over for stuff is going to be a lot cheaper than Nate Bargatze is your Cumtown boy, the Adam guy.
Adam Friedland?
Yeah,
that would be
talked about a lot out here for taking over Jon Stewart kind of jobs.
That would be amazing if Nick Mullen basically pranked CBS into hiring Adam Friedland as a late night talk show host. That would be fantastic. And honestly, you're not wrong. That's a good fit, and he would be a lot cheaper than Nate.
I've seen his face on like the Variety like 5 or 6 times. Like, is this
That's
the new
that's
Jon
the exact.
Stewart?
Honestly, that's the exact show I'm talking about. The Adam Friedland show is what, if CBS is going to have any late night, that's what they should do. Like the Norm Macdonald Live format, where like the crew laughs, but it's not this massive studio audience, and it's one guest for 45 minutes. You know?
And it's in his basement.
Yeah.
Also, I'd put $20 on just Pat McAfee taking it over because he fills every hole.
Yeah, they're stupid, so they will do something like that.
Pat McAfee at late night.
It'll be some horrible. It'll be Jason Kelsey or something.
We got AJ Hawk with us here tonight.
Yeah.
Now, I acknowledge, losing money. Late night TV is a struggling financial model. We are all basically operating a Blockbuster kiosk inside of a Tower Records.
So that is the one like good joke that he had in this, and the one correct statement he made. And to me, you don't get to do a but after that. You don't get to say we're a Blockbuster kiosk inside of a Tower Records, but just keep him.
Yeah.
We like Stephen. Who cares if you're hemorrhaging money, if you're losing millions and millions of dollars? Stephen Colbert cannot be a nice enough guy to overcome the money they're losing. That's not how business works. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not. And Jon Stewart knows that. And if Comedy Central was tanking money in the same way, they'd get rid of Jon Stewart. Like, that's just how it goes. So obviously, NBC is still making money on Fallon in some form, at least enough to be worth having Fallon there. And that's probably because the Tonight Show property means more to advertisers than The Late Show. But Jon Stewart just said it. Like, there shouldn't be any more to this statement. He continues, obviously. But it should just be, we're operating at a Blockbuster kiosk inside of a Tower Records. He nailed it. That's why Colbert got fired. There might be other stuff around it that contributed to it, but that's the reason.
But when your industry is faced with changes, you don't just call it a day. My God! When CDs stopped selling, they didn't just go, oh, well, music, it's been a good run.
No, it changed. The iPod came out when CDs stopped selling.
You know
It
what
changed.
else happened?
And that's what CBS did. To keep with this Tower Records analogy, that's what CBS did. Is they're moving on. They're going to a new format. They gave Stephen Colbert over a decade to do whatever he wanted. And boy, did he. He did the exact show what he wanted. And if you look at the lineup on a given night, it's some fucking congressperson you've never heard of, and the third actor in an Amazon Prime show. And then who gives a fuck after that? They'd have a musical guest or a comedian that Colbert doesn't care about and wasn't there for. Like, I've heard a bunch of comedians say this. If you got a set on Colbert, he was not there. They just recorded it at a different time. So it's a show that he didn't really give a fuck. He just did what he wanted. He didn't care about revolutionizing the industry. Like, so this analogy, that's where he loses me. The Blockbuster kiosk was a perfect analogy. Now he's losing me because Colbert didn't change anything. He had the exact same format. I guess if he changed anything, he's like, what if Johnny Carson was interviewing a politician that half the country hates and another quarter of the country doesn't know? Like, no one would buy that idea. No one would buy that elevator pitch. And that's how Colbert decided to build his show.
It's actually just a factually wrong analogy because I was around. I don't want to age myself, but I was sort of around when we went from streaming to like CDs to streaming in the record. You know what happened, Mike? Everyone at the record labels got fired because it's a new business model. They're used to the old business model. You need to bring in a whole new group of people that you can underpay compared to the new business or the old business model. And that's what's going to happen here. Colbert just got way too expensive. He's been there too long, you know?
They're going to hire fucking Are You Garbage and be like, just do a fun late night show for us.
Just put up your link to your website. That'll be your payment. Yeah.
CDs, you say? CDs nuts. Sorry. That was the Tourette's.
I just a completely unnecessary addition.
Tourette's.
liked
I'm
it a lot.
sorry. I'm so sorry.
I like that one.
I think I got a challenger. CD's nuts for a title. Let us know.
CBS didn't try to save their #1 rated network late night franchise that's been on the air for over 3 decades is part of what's making everybody wonder, was this purely financial? Or maybe the path of least resistance for your $8 billion merger? Was killing a show that you know rankled a fragile and vengeful president so insecure, suffering terribly from a case of chronic penis insufficiency? It's a terrible disease. It's a terrible disease.
So your bosses, John, is that who your
Yes.
bosses fired Stephen because he agitated the president? Then you got on air to talk about this subject and said Donald Trump has a tiny penis. You're allowed to do that. Like, you just proved it's totally fine. The difference is people go out of their way to seek out Jon Stewart. And even if people aren't watching on Comedy Central, I don't know what the numbers are, but I'm more interested, like someone like me who's not that into following a lot of politics. If I'm scrolling through Instagram and 2 clips come up and it's Stephen Colbert talking to Tom Hanks about Diet Coke and champagne, or Jon Stewart giving his take on that week's news, I'm watching the Jon Stewart clip. So if you want to talk about the ratings, if you want to talk about social media presence, whatever, the reason Jon Stewart has a job is not because he goes easy on the president. It's because he is providing something that the network wants. And Colbert stopped doing that. I don't know. Did the Trump stuff have 0% of their decision? Probably not. It probably played a factor, played a role. But this idea that it was purely that, no, it goes back to what Jon Stewart said. And I think Jon Stewart knows that what he said a minute before is the reason that they are a dying industry that people don't give a fuck about. And now all I can think of is Adam Friedland taking over that time slot. Boy, would that be fantastic.
Mm-hmm. The next one here is called Taking a Stand.
Oh, I forgot there was more. That's why I pontificated so much. I forgot there was another clip. God damn it. All right.
Look, I understand the corporate fear. I understand the fear that you and your advertisers have with $8 billion at stake. But understand this, truly. The shows that you now seek to cancel, censor, and control, a not insignificant portion of that $8 billion value came from those fucking shows.
Did Jon Stewart go on this rant when Roseanne got fired?
I don't remember.
When Roseanne was...
might have been on the farm.
That's true. I guess I can't blame John. Maybe he would have defended Roseanne. Because this is where I said Jon Stewart is level-headed. He defended Tony Hinchcliffe a few months ago. So maybe Jon Stewart would have. I guess I can't blame him. But, like, were people saying this when Roseanne got canceled and was, like, dominating that time slot when she came back? And people were like, oh, finally a fresh new perspective in sitcoms. And then the second they had a chance to get rid of her, they did. So were people defending that? I get the situations are different, but at its core, Roseanne said something people didn't like, and they got rid of her. And I don't remember anyone, I mean, other than like Joe Rogan and people on the fringes like that. I wonder how they built up so much. Jeez. I wonder how Rogan, who had a unique perspective and said, hey, maybe don't fire Roseanne. Maybe look a little deeper into this and think about it rationally rather than just a knee-jerk reaction that Twitter wants you to give. I wonder why Joe Rogan rose to prominence. They've all been wondering for the last year, I guess. Is what it's amazing. Like, Democrats started wondering like 8 months ago, why is Joe Rogan popular? It was the first time the industry, it dawned on them that there's this uprising of people that were on the fringes a few years ago, like Schultz and Theo and Rogan and Tony Hinchcliffe. Why'd they get so popular? Maybe it's because they didn't take the same opinion on every issue that they were supposed to have, that the, as I said, trained SEALs in the audience would clap for, but no one at home really agreed with or gave a fuck about. So this idea of like, hey, be brave, CBS, well, they've never done that. And no one had a problem with it until it affected someone on their side. It's so crazy to me that they don't see that stuff.
And his arguments are a little specious because he's kind of saying like, oh, $8 billion of value added and you get nothing. I just did a search. You know how much CBS has paid Stephen Colbert so far? $120 million.
I was just saying it's like $16 million a year or something.
Yeah, they paid him about $100 million so far, and he's gonna make another 40 before he's so. $140 million for an $8 billion. That sounds like an NBA deal. That sounds pretty good deal, is what I'm saying. So what are we complaining about? He got fired, and he's
and meanwhile, by the way, fucking Shane Gillis lost a job and was publicly dragged when he was sharing an apartment with a roommate. Like right. Tony Hinchcliffe, when the Peng Dang thing happened, wasn't a hugely successful guy. And right. People were not going, hey, how can you do this to their livelihood? Mm-hmm. But Stephen Colbert loses a job that he's already made $100 million for. And people are like, I can't believe they would do this to the poor guy. He's got a family to support.
Right. And another thing that he says, that if Viacom, who owns or whatever, Paramount, whatever, like they have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders who often are elderly people in retirement accounts to make sure they have money and that their money goes up. So there's victims on either side. So there's the rich 100 millionaire Colbert on one side who's got to get a new job and he'll be rich. Or people who own stock, grandmas and grandpas who own stock in Viacom, and when it goes down because your show sucks, they can't buy their applesauce this week.
Yeah, I stupidly thought Jon Stewart would point some of these things out like that. Like, that's a great point. The fact that they have shareholders, the fact that there's all these things. And I guess he used that Blockbuster analogy to be an umbrella for all of that. Like, hey, here's the bone I'll throw logic. But the reason I say foolishly, my prediction was that Jon Stewart would be level-headed on this. It's foolish because I forgot how good of friends they are. Like, I didn't take that into consideration.
That's what made you that money. Shows that say something, shows that take a stand, shows that are unafraid. And not to, believe me, this is not we speak truth to power. We don't. We speak opinions to television cameras. But we try. We fucking try every night. And if you believe, as corporations or as networks, you can make yourselves so innocuous that you can serve a gruel so flavorless that you will never again be on the boy king's radar, why will anyone watch you? And you are fucking wrong. You want to know?
He should be saying this into the mirror. And I guess I don't mean Jon Stewart, but I mean late night in general. Do a little study if you're upset about this. People like Julie DeCaro who are emailing Paramount Plus, I would say do a little study. Get a transcript of take out any identifiers, any names or anything like that, but just get a transcript on any given night of Colbert, Kimmel, Seth Meyers, Jimmy Fallon, their monologues. Get a transcript of that and just read it. They are indistinguishable. Like Jimmy Fallon, I saw a clip of Jimmy Fallon's monologue after the Colbert announcement, and Jimmy Fallon's joke was about like hundreds of people being like, hundreds of people will be upset that this isn't on Paramount anymore. The joke is like no one uses Paramount Plus. Your show is on Peacock, and no one gives a fuck about it, Jimmy. Like the transcripts of these shows would be indistinguishable. Easy for me to say. So Jon Stewart saying you want your shows to be vanilla? That's the problem. They already are. They are already who gives a fuck. Maybe they should give an opportunity to, like I said, someone like Bergazzi, someone like Adam Friedland, someone like Are You Garbage? These things that might actually be different or might be what an audience that watches late night programming wants. So I think I don't know if he's doing it on purpose, but I think John is being a bit obtuse here when he says, well, your shows are going to become vanilla. It's like, that's why they brought you back, John. Because Trevor Noah and anyone else they brought in there, Hassan Minhaj or Leslie Jones or whoever they brought in to fill that seat was just doing the same horse shit that Colbert and Kimmel were doing. That's why they needed you, John. So I think you better than anyone know that it's gotten vanilla a long time ago, long before Trump had anything to do with Colbert getting fired.
Can we see if Tom Snyder's still available? He was
I wish he was the greatest. But yeah, a Tom Snyder type of show might be what they're going to look for.
Yeah, bring it
you
back.
know, like just a straight interview, no audience, that type of thing. But it's amazing to watch, and I say this all the time. I've given the right shit for it about it lately. I gave the left shit for it for the previous decade, and in this instance, the left deserves shit for it again. The idea that Democrats and liberals are whining that something of theirs got canceled is so insane to me that they never once go, well, hey, we complained to get other people canceled, so maybe we should look in the mirror over this. Maybe
we have no sense of humor, Mike. I can't.
Hey, Donald Trump got angry, so a network canceled. How about you doing that with every advertiser of every show you didn't like for the previous decade? It's amazing not to look at that for 1 second. And Jon Stewart's not guilty of that, so I'll exempt him. But just in general, the people bitching about Colbert, your first thought when you don't like something is, let's run to the advertisers and demand this gets taken off the air because I don't like it.
This kind of reminds me of what's going on with us liberals. I see it in these groups where they're really nervous Obama's going to get a mugshot, you know? And I think, well, hey, wait a second. We celebrated the other guy getting a mugshot, and we were in the streets over it. I think, hey, if peace,
they should all be jailed. Every politician
exactly.
probably deserves to be in prison.
Just get mugshots of all of them. That would be amazing. I'm for that.
Go to blindmike.net for everything Blind Mike. Look at me. I did it. Kragers did it.